Aaron Rodgers to the New York Giants. That doesn't sound right. Even Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, it was the Brett Favre story 2.0, basically. But Aaron Rodgers to the Giants, in my mind, makes no sense. None whatsoever. I think the first question is, what version of Rodgers would the Giants get? I think that's the biggest question right now, because we realized that when we first saw Aaron Rodgers, the one where it was, okay, now he's healthy again, he's coming back, he could have came back last year, maybe, if they made a playoff push, but this was how Rodgers' season opened up. The guy who was known for having the lowest interception percentage in NFL history had a 10-7 touchdown interception ratio. He had a decent amount of yards per game, completion percentage was terrible, passer rating was horrible. But then after week 7, week 8 to the end of the season, he actually improved pretty nicely, actually. The interception to touchdown ratio improved. Passer rating skyrocketed from 82 to 97. The passing yards came down. Completion percentage went up. Yards per pass went up as well. But I also find it funny how we look at that Rodgers and say, okay, he's an improved quarterback. That's good enough to win, right? Well, it wasn't the last season with the Packers where they went 8-9 and missed the playoffs. The comparison is eerily similar. That's the wrong graphic. There it is. The comparison's eerily similar because this. Let's go full screen on this one. I think it's important. That's basically Rodgers 2.0 of 2022. So I find it very funny how people thought that this version of Aaron Rodgers post week 8 or week 7 rather was a great Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, it was the exact same Rodgers that ended up missing the playoffs. And might I add, during the only reason why the Packers were even in playoff contention is because they had a 4-game winning streak late. 4 out of the last 5 games they won. That last game against the Lions, they missed the playoffs. But during that 4-game winning streak, this was all the way back in 2022-2023 season. So this graphic is old for us. These were the numbers back then. They were running the ball at a great level, and their passing defense, or their defense in general, was insane. They averaged 3 takeaways per game during that 4-game winning streak late in the season. That's the only reason why the Packers were even in playoff contention that late. So for me, I don't really care about whether or not Rodgers is going to go there. I don't think it's going to work whatsoever. Because Rodgers is an aging quarterback who right now your cap is about 500. And what's going to save Daboll and Shane's job? I don't think really anything can save it. Because they do have the hardest schedule going into next season based on this past year's winning percentages. And I think, even with Rodgers out there, if he gets to a slow and shaky start, it won't matter who the quarterback is. We'll be in the exact same situation as the Jets were this season, except it will be the exact same, actually, because the coach will get fired. That's just how it'll be. Shane and Brian Daboll will both get fired by Thanksgiving if this team has a terrible record, which they probably will. I also think it's very important to point out that Rodgers at this stage in the game, same with Brady, same as any aging quarterback, even Brady, at some point I cannot carry this team every single game. I cannot be the sole guy that the team relies upon. Brady in 2022 couldn't be that guy because you watch some of those highlights. If even there was a sniff of pressure, Brady was throwing it in the dirt, throwing it away, or throwing it off target. That's just what 2022 was for Tom Brady. It was an ugly way to go out, and then you got blown out by the Dallas Cowboys in the playoff game. But last year, the Jets threw it 64% of the time. That was the 4th most in the NFL. The Jets relied heavily upon him, and the record was 5-12. But what about the Giants, though, right? Because, Shane got off of Saquon, brought in Devin Singletary. Tyrone Tracy had an interesting year. They threw it the 7th most times in the NFL, or they had a passing percentage that was 7th most in the NFL, 60% of the time. So Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, even Tommy Cutlets, they were relied heavily upon in this offense. So I think that if Rodgers goes to the Giants, not only will they have a bad offensive line, an interior defense that was lackluster, except for pressures, but outside of that, they didn't really do a great job. The secondary wasn't great whatsoever. The running game was non-existent. You have one really good weapon. I think the only reason why Rodgers would even think about going to the Giants is something that you interestingly brought up when we were talking about where's Davante Adams going to go, and could the 49ers be looking at a wide receiver 2 in Davante? Well, that means that even though John Lynch, GM of the Niners, already says that they want to give Brock Purdy his extension in this offseason, okay, let's say you give him the money. Why would you then sign Aaron Rodgers? You just gave Purdy all this money. That's 1 year gone. They're
not going to sign him, I don't think.
Well, I think unless Davante Adams wants to get away from either one of his friends, the Saints with Derek Carr or Rodgers going to potentially the New York Giants,
yeah, well,
then what's Davante going to do?
Money will get in the middle of that friendship, I think. I think he'll go where he can get the most money. I think it's been a long time, Nate, since the Giants had a quarterback that with a 3,897 yards passing, 28 TDs, and 11 interceptions. 2018, Eli Manning had 4,299 yards. That's the last time they had anybody close to 4,000 or over 4,000. And Rodgers, almost 4,000 this past year. I think that going to the Giants and being successful is the best way for Rodgers to stick it to the Jets. I mean, he had some incentive there. I think he'd love to see that. He would love to have that happen. I don't think the Giants have a history of firing coaches midway through the season. I don't think they've ever fired a coach anytime during the season. They always make their decisions at the end. So I don't know whether Daboll's going to get canned and Shane get canned mid-season. I think it's unlikely. If Rodgers does go to the Giants and they make it a package deal with Davante Adams, I think they have to be very careful how they handle the situation with Malik Neighbors. We'll have to make sure that Neighbors isn't alienated the same way Wilson was when Adams was brought in by the Jets and Rodgers favored Adams. Neighbors emerged as a locker room leader over the last 2 months of the season, and he's somebody they want to keep happy. Just that Rodgers favoring Adams, he threw it to him 112 times when in 11 games, and only 87 since Adams came to the Jets went to Wilson, and then in the red zone. Adams got the look 21 times and Wilson 11, and that made Wilson angry. And I think that if Rodgers had stayed with the Jets, you wouldn't have seen Wilson ask for a trade. They didn't want that.
I have two situations. One, I find it. Well, no, this is classic for Aaron Rodgers to be hypocritical because he spoke with TMZ in a very brief chat, and they asked him what he'll be looking for in his next team. And Rodgers, this is a direct quote: "If they want you." And a good team. Those are his two criteria. He wants a team that wants him, and they have to be a good team. The Giants are not a good team. So he's being hypocritical. And also, shout out to ESPN's, I'm going to get his last name wrong, so I apologize. ESPN's Daniel Oyefusi, he mentioned in a piece on Friday that only 9 out of 46 teams made the playoffs under the current division format since 2002 after winning 3 or fewer games the previous season. Well, guess what? The Giants just went 3-14, excuse me. So they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not a good team. They're the New York Giants. They have a bad offensive line, no running game, one real weapon, no tight end, no wide receiver too, no great defensive interior when it comes to the production side. People are going to call out the names. Well, guess what? The Chargers had great names, but the production was terrible until Jim Harbaugh got there. Secondary is terrible. I mean, the Giants aren't a good football team. We called this out in March, where we said 2-15 is probably their record. And if it wasn't for a Drew Lock game, which was based on EPA, the greatest game a quarterback's ever had, well, then they would be 2-15. Instead, they're 3-14. So I don't think that Rodgers to the Giants would make any lick of sense. I don't think it changes anything about the Giants. It'll be the exact same way the New York Jets were. A lot of hype, not great production. And if really Rodgers is your go-to to save your career, didn't do Robert Saleh anything. It didn't do the Jets GM anything. Joe Douglas. It's going to be a rinse and repeat process at the hands of Aaron Rodgers because I think, and we're going to talk about this later, I think Davante is going to make a decision that isn't close. I think he's going to make a decision with his head, not his heart now. That's what I think.
No, I agree.
So I don't care what happens. And here's the thing: I don't even think he goes to the Steelers because I think the mentality, the personality, I think that would clash. The ideology of a team, I think that'll clash because Rodgers goes on to the Jets and he's the assistant GM. That isn't going to fly with Mike Tomlin because it's his roster. What's going to happen when George Pickens? It's going to be a battle of who's petty between George Pickens and Rodgers. Who can out petty one another? Because we saw with Mike Williams and Rodgers. Rodgers was, you should have gone this way. You should have been in this section of the field when I do. You missed offseason. You missed a mandatory training camp. Mike Williams just got there. Make a good throw. It's going to be the exact same thing with George Pickens. If Pickens doesn't get his targets, it'll be who out-petties who. And right now, Rodgers is undefeated in that department. So good luck, George Pickens. And also wouldn't surprise me if Pickens gets traded at all. Because we've seen now back-to-back where it comes to disgruntled receivers. Deontay Johnson was the first to go. Steelers got off him, and look, he's on his fifth team in like 2 years. Not a great look for him. I think it could be the same thing with George Pickens. At some point, Mike Tomlin's going to be like, you're a phenomenal talent. We could probably get a first-round pick for you. But this toxicity, because he even said in his postseason conference, he was asked, have you seen changes? Yeah. Does it make you more optimistic? Nah.
Yeah, he's somebody that needs to get his head screwed on a little better. I think he said a bunch of things, and some of his play has been questionable, and whether the Steelers want to hang on to him or not remains to be seen. But I think the Giants, they're in a terrible spot. I mean, you look at the Commanders, how much better they are. You look at the Eagles, they just won the Super Bowl. You look at Dallas, they're probably good enough to win 7 or 8 games. The Giants, the toughest schedule in the league, maybe they should just make it another rebuilding year. I don't know. Why not? They got false hopes, I think, that they're going to win much this year. I don't see them doing much better than they did last year.
I want to bring this graphic up for the next topic of the show, but I think it does actually fit with Aaron Rodgers because Dianna Russini did on a Tuesday episode of the Scoop City podcast. Dianna Russini says that she's not hearing Rodgers to the Raiders, that the Raiders are focusing on Russell Wilson and a little bit of Sam Darnold. Well, then that leaves what team for Rodgers? Let's say, because let's take the Giants currently out of it because I think that's a horrible fit. The Jets are going to get off them. The Raiders apparently no. Titans have the number 1 draft pick. The Saints have Derek Carr and a massive cap hit. Same thing with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. The Colts want to bring in competition, and the Steelers might have a personality issue. So really, it's what? The Giants? The Colts?
Well, the Browns aren't going to get off of Deshaun Watson.
They may draft a quarterback.
He can't play, right?
So there you go.
Play.
So okay, you might bring him in for that 1 year if Deshaun Watson can't play.
Yeah. Well, Rodgers is desperate. Rodgers is desperate. There aren't many suitors out there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So right now, Rodgers' teams, and I want to check this off. Let's see. The Giants, do you think that's a legitimate potential team for Rodgers?
I do.
So that's the Giants. Okay.
I don't think it's a good fit. You described a lot of reasons why
Bad
it wouldn't be a good fit,
team.
But he wanted to go to a good team. He may not have it. He's not in a position where he can pick if he wants to play.
Right. Okay, so the Jets, absolutely not. They're about to get off him.
Yeah.
Raiders, based on the reporting, they're not interested in Rodgers, but do you think that could be a potential good fit?
Compared to Russell Wilson?
Compared to any quarterback out there. Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, whoever else you want.
Compared to all the others that are out there, maybe it's not such a bad idea.
So
it'd be worth looking at.
I'll check that off. So 2 teams. Titans.
No, I think they're going to...
So that's a no. Okay, Steelers.
I heard they were going to give Levis another chance.
They are going to give Levis a chance, but there's also a shot when you have Cam Ward out there.
Steelers, no. Fields is going to get the job.
Okay, and then Saints.
Saints, no. Derek Carr is going to be continue.
Colts.
They might give him an interview. I'm not sure whether they're going to hire him or not, but who else are they going to get? The Colts?
Mac Jones. Jameis Winston, Sam, anybody.
You told me Mac Jones is a backup quarterback.
I agree. But here's the again.
I mean, Richardson, they say they're bringing somebody in to give him competition.
And I don't think Mac Jones is true competition.
Okay, so who is the competition going to be?
I think really the only quarterback competition, and it's really 4 quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins. And you know what? And if you want to include Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think Rodgers is going to take a potential backup job. Because that's what that is. It's a potential backup spot. In case somehow Richardson...
Definitely Rodgers is not going to take that, but he has a big ego, so he might think that he can beat out Richardson. And
so is that a yes or... I need a yes or a no for this one. I'm curious.
Right now, I think he gets an interview.
I
don't think they're going to talk to him. They may talk to him.
So I'll get half point. And then the Browns.
I think that's a possibility.
So right now we have 3.5 possibilities out of potential 8. And I really think that there is no good fit. And really, when it comes to Rodgers, what's your expectation at this stage in the game?
My expectation would be 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
So you think and that ended up being for the Jets this year a 5-12 record, and for the Packers in 2022 it was 8-9.
Yeah.
But during their 4-game winning streak, right before the last
bring
week of the
those
season,
teams up again.
This one.
Yeah, most of those teams, except the Steelers,
So
are going to be happy with 8 and 9, right? Those teams would all be happy with 8 and 9, except the Steelers, who always makes the playoffs and always have a winning record.
Well, the Colts just had an 8 and 9 record, so they would basically be the exact same.
They'd be the same, but the Saints would probably be happy with an 8 and 9 record. So
you think Rodgers could get to an 8 and 9 record?
I do. I think.
I don't think so.
I think it's possible, but maybe not with these teams.
That's the only teams that really have a shot.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt the Titans are going to be 8 and 9 next year.
I agree.
I think the Raiders possibly could be because of the coach. I think the Steelers definitely can be. I think the Steelers will probably have a winning record. The Saints, they don't need. I don't think they're not going off Derek Carr, and I think if they do bring in a quarterback, it will be Cooper Rush.
Ooh.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about that. That's interesting.
He's a free agent.
That's interesting.
He's not going to be Lance. Trey Lance is going to be gone too. That's why the Cowboys are going to draft a quarterback. The Colts, they're in a tough spot, and they're in maybe. I don't think Darnold. If they're bringing in somebody for competition, it's not going to be Darnold because Darnold's going to say, "I'm not coming unless I'm the starter."
Well, you might not even be that in the Vikings. The Vikings want J.J. McCarthy.
I know. That's one of their...
I think right now Sam Darnold's just going to get a job.
Well, what about... We didn't speak about Daniel Jones at all. I think he's going to wind up with the Vikings as the bridge quarterback.
I want to save that for the very next topic because we're talking about Sam Darnold. But 3.5 teams according to you, and that half team is just for an Indianapolis Colts interview with Aaron Rodgers. I don't disagree with it. And there was also
who are they going to bring in for competition? Who is the quarterback? Who are they thinking about?
Well, and this is what with the conversation we had on Friday. What is the definition of real competition? Because you cannot, if Chris Ballard is serious about real competition,
it's not draft. It's not a rookie.
Right. Well, maybe potentially.
I don't think Richardson would view that as much threat to bring in somebody who never played the NFL.
If Jackson Dart is who apparently scouts think he is, he could throw a very nice football. Maybe, but I don't think so. So if we're talking about real competition, it can't be any one of these quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. Can't be any of those. Just throw them out the window. Jarrett Stidham, I think he's still under contract with the Broncos, but can't be any one of those. Real competition is a quarterback that either started in the past year for a decent amount of games or could potentially be a starter like a Justin Fields. Like a potential Kirk Cousins again.
Mac Jones started a bunch of games this year.
Well, that wasn't because that was because Trevor Lawrence got benched. Kirk Cousins started games and then got benched. Joe Flacco got in because Anthony Richardson got benched and also hurt.
Oh, Trevor Lawrence didn't get benched.
That's what I'm saying.
He got hurt.
Correct. Mac Jones was thrown in there because of an injury.
But he did start a bunch of games.
Got benched.
He did start a bunch of games.
True, but would you consider
Kirk Cousins isn't going to want to come there? I thought Atlanta was going to hang on to him.
It's going to get dirty very quickly because there is a signing bonus that is very expensive. There's a roster bonus that's very expensive. It's like $37 million.
Yeah.
You don't want a $37 million backup. Why would you ever have that?
No, I don't think you'd want that.
It wouldn't make any sense to do that. So,
well, maybe Cousins is the guy that's the competition, but he isn't going to like that.
In the worst division in football, there are two teams, one of which is interesting just because they have a situation. They have a quarterback. The Titans are just a bad team, period. The Colts are in the worst division of football, and they're a decent story. Because it's Anthony Richardson, a guy with immense talent who can't complete a singular pass, and 2 years in, they already looking at a quarterback competition. It's a Josh Rosen situation. You can give him a little bit of space, a little bit of time to develop, but then at that one point, you got to cut bait, you got to cut loose and just say, bad draft pick.
To me, the Colts have a good coach. The Colts have a decent team. They lack a quarterback. That's their problem. Maybe Aaron Rodgers he can redo what the Jets thought he was going to do for them. They had everything except the quarterback. Now maybe the Colts feel the same way, and they'll bring him in. But they got to sell him on this competition idea, which I don't think he'll go for.
I think Devontae Adams could also go there potentially.
Yeah, sure. They need receivers. They need receivers. They don't know
about that. A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce.
They don't have anybody that you'd think is elite.
Mike, hey. I mean, okay. When they to define
Devontae Adams had a good year. He had 5 years with more than 1,000 yards in a row.
I got numbers. We're going to talk about Devontae Adams soon. I got numbers that says otherwise if we're talking about the last 5 years. But yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.